about them. So I popped it in the chat. You should be able to access it. It's the same exact PowerPoint I'll be covering today, just to give you an opportunity to be able to click through and ask any other questions. So we're here together to talk about WSOS, or Washington State Opportunity Scholarship, and all the really amazing opportunities that we have for students that are eligible and looking into going into a STEM or healthcare field, which it sounds like all of you are. So we're going to go ahead and just review WS's mission. And so we're here to really go beyond just helping you get through school through financial aid, but really helping you launch careers in STEM and healthcare. And so a lot of the supports that we offer students are to do just that. And so we're much more than just financial aid, but really helping Washington students get into those Washington jobs and be the talent pool that the state needs in order for it to thrive. These are the scholarship programs that we have, and we'll touch on both of them. The baccalaureate, so BAS, is for students intending to earn a bachelor's degree in STEM or healthcare. This was our first program that was introduced years ago. And then we recently introduced CTS, or Career and Technical Scholarship, that is for apprenticeships, associate degrees, or certificates. And this was new these last couple of years. And that one is coupled with RJI, the Rural Jobs Initiative. But we'll go over those distinctions in case you or someone you know may qualify for RJI and CTS. But here's how we do our work at WSOS. So like I said, we're really here to build that qualified workforce that the state needs. And a lot of what we do is aligned with what the state needs and wants. And so those programs that are approved to receive funding are through data that we have pulled in that the state does indeed need for those high demand jobs in STEM, healthcare, and trades if you're applying for CTS and RJI. We're also here to create pathways for students that have been historically left out. So populations like women, students of color, first generation college students. And so we're really excited that this is one of our focus, especially for areas like STEM and healthcare, where those numbers are much lower. We really want to increase in those opportunities for students that don't have access to. And then lastly, we believe with all of this that we're really changing communities. By giving students financial aid and really financial resources, they'll be able to complete their credential, whatever that may be, and really change the landscape of their families in the future to come. This is one of my favorite slides. It's often when I get more questions about the funding itself. Our financial aid in terms of our scholarship dollars are beyond flexible. We won't tell you, you have to use it for tuition, you have to use it for books, you have to use it for gas, but you can use it for all of that. You can also use it if you need to pay for transportation to get to school, if you need to buy food, you haven't had lunch that day, oh, well, there's that scholarship money from WSOS there to support you. And so how that usually happens is if you're a selected recipient of WSOS, whether that's baccalaureate or CTS, usually what happens is the money will get sent and dispersed to the school or technical college of your choice that you are enrolling in for that quarter or semester. And then through there, the school will work out on doing what it needs to pay out usually what is remaining on your account, or if you have an excess, that will usually go into your own personal bank account that then you can use to pay for food and for housing and all of that. So I always encourage students, especially when I have a student session, is to apply to many scholarships as possible, right? Especially scholarships like WSOS that don't have a restriction on what that money can be used for. A lot of scholarships do have a restriction of it can only be used for tuition, or it can only be used for boarding. And so we don't have that. So we really try to make it as flexible for you all to really help you get the credential that you need. Another question that I get is, if we get money, do we ever have to pay it back? And the answer is no. Once you are awarded that money for that term, that's your money to keep that term. If for any reason you have to forfeit, or you have to, the scholarship is taken away due to you changed out of an eligible major, you're no longer going to one of those credit-bearing programs, then you don't have to pay any of that money back. You just wouldn't receive that money in that term. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully I didn't confuse you. The last thing is just to know, super flexible. We try to give you as much flexibility so that you can put it wherever you need to. Is there any questions before I start going into the specifics of the different scholarships? Okay, so we're going to start with the baccalaureate scholarship. This one is really distinguished by our green, and so anything green on the slides, feel free to click on, and if it has an underline. So we'll start out with the scholarship structure of BAS. So for BAS, if you're a selected scholar for BAS, you can get up to $22,500 over 5 years. Okay, and that is triggered through like a tier system. Once you are officially enrolled in your programs, and sometimes we do see that if you're, for example, going to the UW and you're in line to do electrical engineering, you're not officially into the program unless you complete prerequisites or any of that good stuff that you need to do before. So once you officially declare that that's your major, you'll usually see an increase in your scholarship dollars. So that's where it gets to that $22,500 over the 5 years. And you do have 5 years of eligibility for this scholarship if you complete everything else. Here are some scholarship supports that we have created with our programs team. So one of the really cool things is your first year as a scholar, you'll be paired with the scholar lead. This is another scholar that's usually in their 3rd or 4th year that's doing as this part of their leadership development. And they will work with you to help you get accustomed to campus, answer any questions that you don't feel comfortable or willing to ask an advisor or a professor. They're really there to support you. They tend to be in the same field that you're wanting to do your credential in. So they're really great peer mentors in that way. We also have the Skills That Shine industry mentorship. So this takes mentorship up a notch when you're in your 3rd and 4th year, and you get paired with the professional of your choosing to work with. And so we have professionals across the state that are volunteering to do this kind of service with us. And with that, if you opt into the program, you will get a list of all these professionals, what they do, what they can support you with, and it's up to you to select the one that is best for you. So it's really flexible about all of those good stuff. So I see some questions coming in about, does the college have to be in Washington? And yes, that is one of the criteria that we'll get into. But yes, it would have to be for any WSOS funding to be eligible. It has to be a Washington State college or community college or technical college. And then we'll go over into the due dates, but there's a long, super long list. I'll go ahead and pop it in the chat just in case people have hopped on and they didn't get that message, but any links in there you can click. And then lastly, our support services, Industry Insider. So this is also a really neat opportunity available for our BAS recipients. You will get kind of emails throughout the year with exclusive opportunities for scholars. So this could either mean that the partner itself has said, if a WSOS scholar puts on their resume that they are indeed a WSOS scholar, we will give them preference or priority in the application process. So that's one way. The other way is they reserve specific seats for that internship or opportunity for a scholar. So we know that a scholar will occupy that seat in that internship. So those are the different ways that you can engage with Industry Insider, and this is all relevant to what you're studying, what year in school you're in, and then we funnel that, and then you get that opportunity once we have all of that cleared through our programs team. Any questions on the structure? We'll go into eligibility when it opens and all of that in the next slide.
Sally Ann asked how many people will receive a scholarship.
So for baccalaureate, it's around 750 every year. So we'll introduce 750 new scholars every year. Okay. So this next slide is a very shortened version of what the criteria is for BAS. Obviously, we'll start with residency. So be a Washington State resident eligible for in-state tuition, as well as have earned or have a GED from a Washington State institution or high school. Financial needs, so you will need to complete the FAFSA or WASFA by the deadline of BAS, which is February 11th, 2021. So the application is open. It opened last week and it will close February 11th. So make a note of that. You will need to complete your FAFSA or WASFA by the application deadline, which is February 11th. In that kind of green hyperlink, click that because that will take you to a chart that will really make that sentence a lot easier to comprehend. It's kind of one of those tough ones, especially with financial aid. So really taking the guessing out of the game, click the link, look at the chart, see where you fall under, and that's what would be the income that you would have to be a part of. And then for academic record, we do have a GPA requirement for BAS. that's 2.75, or a passing GED score if that applies to you. Enrollment plan. So these two next links will answer some of the questions. So that eligible majors list, that is an very exhaustive list of every program in the state that is eligible for funding for WSOS. So if you're looking at, I want to study like engineering or chemistry or English, you can see on there if those are approved. English would not be on that list because it doesn't fall into STEM or healthcare. So make sure that before you're applying, you review those lists that will be part of the application to ask you which major you're intending on pursuing. That second link there, eligible Washington State institution, that will also give you a list of the Washington eligible institutions that are approved for funding. It's a super long list, like I said, as well. So just make sure that if you are planning on being eligible for funding, it would have to be one of those with an eligible programs from that eligible majors list. And then obviously it's for students that haven't earned a bachelor's degree, which none of you should. I heard that there's some associate's degrees in the works, but that wouldn't make you ineligible. If you have already received a bachelor's degree, you wouldn't be eligible. Any questions on the criteria for BAS? Okay, so like I said, the application is open and it will close February 11th, and make sure you get that FAFSA or that WASFA in by that deadline in as well. The next slide is a bunch of resources for you all as you're working on your application. So there will be questions that come up that you might want answers to, and I really encourage you to go to the Baccalaureate Application Toolkit first. I won't go through everything on here. Some of it was already shared before, such as the eligible majors and college list. The one I really want to touch on is that essay questions and guide. So a lot of students sometimes see a scholarship that asks for an essay and they immediately write it off because they don't want to write an essay. They think it's too much time or it's too hard. So we've really tried to take all of that difficulty out of the application. If you click that link, it will take you to this guide that we've prepared sample questions and sample responses of what we would select as a recipient of the scholarship. So before you even start working on your essays, I really encourage you to review that document. It'll tell you everything that we could possibly want in your answer in the way that we want it. So really utilize that. We really push our partners to utilize that because there's a lot of questions that can come up. And so that's the best resource on this whole page available. But also, if you want any information in Spanish, if you click that Spanish up there in the front, at the top, not the front, at the top, you can access all the relevant information if you're from a Spanish-speaking community. Any questions on the resources available? Okay. So we'll go ahead and move into the Career and Technical Scholarship. So like I said, this one is for an associate's degree, a certificate, or an apprenticeship. So that is the clear distinction between BAS and CTS. So here's the structure for CTS. Here's one of our amazing scholars that works in insulation. Here, like I said, it's a bunch of programs are eligible for, especially even more since they're across the state, including rural communities. Here, the funding is very different. So you see if you are selected as a CTS recipient, your funding would be the same throughout the duration of your program. So if you are selected, you get $1,500 per quarter for the duration of your program, regardless if it's 1 year or 3 years, okay? So you'll get that as long as you remain eligible in that eligible programs list. We are currently working and we onboarded new staff members that will be working on the supports. So we're hoping that it will mirror very similar to what BAS has available in terms of internship opportunities, mentorship, whether that's peer or industry. Here's the criteria for CTS. You will see that it's very similar to the baccalaureate eligibility, with the difference of that the eligible programs list and obviously the community and technical college list is different since this is for a different subset. The eligible programs list will list all those associates, certificate or apprenticeships that are eligible for funding. And then the eligible Washington State Community or Technical College link will list all of the college across Washington that are eligible to receive funding. That's the only difference. All the other requirements you still have to fulfill, the same as baccalaureate, so completing FAFSA or WASFA by the application deadline. And because you all are high school students and high school seniors, from my knowledge, you wouldn't be eligible until the fall. So we are opening up an application in January, but current high school seniors are not eligible for the spring application. You're eligible for the fall application. So make a note of that, especially if you're on our website and you're seeing, oh, the application opened in January, I need to apply by February. No, because you're a high school student, you're not eligible until the fall application, because that would give you funding for the fall, because that's when you would start at a community or technical college. So just make sure that you make a note of this in case you come across that spring application, you're like, oh, I need to apply. No, remember, fall application is for you. Any questions on the eligibility of CTS? Amazing. Now we'll move on to Rural Jobs Initiative, RJI, and that's a subset of CTS. So this is for a specific community of students. When does the fall one open? Like month. The fall one opens here at the bottom of the slide, April 14th, 2021. And it will close June 4th, 2021. For RJI, the Rural Jobs Initiative, this is for a special subset of CTS applicants that are eligible. So they would have to be, the difference is this RJI is all about rural communities and how we can support rural communities, rural applicants and students, get the credentials to support the rural community and access those opportunities that are literally in their backyard. And so this is the difference. You would see that the dollar amount here jumps up significantly. So we'll go over the criteria, but there's where you can see the difference in that over the duration of the program. You get a little bit more at the beginning, and then it'll kind of flat out towards 2,000 per quarter for the duration of your quarter. This already includes CTS funding. So just keep that in mind. This is an all-encompassing. If you're eligible for RJI, the question is, how do I know if I'm eligible? So in that kind of second bullet, subset bullet there, you can see all the counties that are not eligible. So if you belong to a county that is not listed on there, you would be eligible. Part one. The second piece that you need to be eligible for is falling into the Rural Jobs Initiative approved programs list. And for that, we'll review this chart here. This is a screenshot of what that program list looks like. And if you're wanting to see that you are indeed from a rural community, you don't belong to one of those listed in the previous slide, you would have to find a program that's on this far right hand column, and it needs to say eligible for rural jobs. So just because you belong to a rural community doesn't mean any of these are part of it. It's only those right hand column programs that are eligible for RJI. Any questions on that distinction there?
I think I have a question.
Yeah.
So I know that Michael is interested in being a sonogram tech, right? Is that right? And so one of the schools, he was looking at a school in Oregon, but one of the schools here in Washington State that he was looking at was Bellevue College, because they offer 4-year degrees there as well. And Bellevue College offers a Bachelor's of Applied Science in Radiation and Imaging Science that includes radiation imaging, diagnostic medicine, sonography as a major. So yeah, seriously. Oh, that would be the specialty in there, but it's not showing up in the lists on your baccalaureate scholarship because this would be a 4-year degree. It's not listed as, I don't see radiation or sonography or imaging or anything on there. And then when I searched on the associate's degree one, it did show up those majors, but it only showed them up at 2 schools, one in Spokane and one in Tacoma. So I didn't see the Bellevue program at all. And I'm wondering, is there a way to, like, if there's a program Michael's interested, or any of the students are interested in, like, hey, I think this should fall into your thing. It's science, or it's, you know, healthcare. Is there something they can do about that?
Yeah, so all of these programs, like I said, are vetted through data in terms of, are they high demand? The distinction about where they go in terms of, is it BAS funding, is it CTS funding, that all funnels through our awards team. I don't sit on the team, so I don't have the specifics of why this one sits on this one. However, if you do see it, that, for example, Elizabeth, you're the counselor advisor, if you see, like, this is a program that should be eligible on here, I pulled up here on this, where you can email our awards team and tell them about the program. And that way they can have conversations, they'll get the data, and they do revise it and edit it usually every cycle. So if you're looking for that and have the justification, definitely email our awards team, awards@opportunityscholarship.org, and they'll work on the back end to see would it fit into the criteria, because it is through legislation that we approve programs and all of those good stuff. And so that's where I would point you to.
Wonderful. And then if a student does go through one of the CTS scholarship programs and gets their degree in something, maybe nursing with an RN option, and they get that degree, and then they decide that they want to go to another school and transfer from an RN to an RM BSN, will they be able to apply for the baccalaureate scholarship as well at that point in time?
So that is one of those great specific questions, and that's where I would pinpoint you again towards awards for those specific situations. So for any students, and I apologize for not mentioning this at the beginning, for any student thinking that they might be interested in a baccalaureate degree or a bachelor's at 4-year degree, they should apply for baccalaureate regardless if they're planning on starting at the community college and then transferring. So that's where we work on that. So if you do have a student, encourage them to apply for baccalaureate if they're thinking about it, because it works very different. CTS is for our students and applicants that are wanting to enter the workforce right after earning that credential. And so that support is very unique to that. And our baccalaureate support is very unique to that subset of 4-year students. And so that's where it is. If you're wanting, or students here, if you're wanting to transfer, baccalaureate's for you. If you're not wanting to transfer right now, that doesn't seem like something you're interested, CTS, and then looking at that CTS eligible programs list. Hopefully that answers. Okay, so coming back to RJI eligibility, like I said, it has to be an eligible programs for RJI, and it also has to be from a rural community. That's really the big distinction there. Again, this is a screenshot. Oh, JK, I skipped it. This is all the tools, just like BAS, that has all the tools to support you with your application. CTS does that well. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention about RJI, because I got too excited. RJI is the same application as CTS. So if you're looking that you fulfill the RJI components as well, there's nothing extra you need to do. In the application itself, it will ask you all those identifying questions. And if you do like check all those additional RJI boxes, you'll be pulled automatically. There's nothing you need to do. And then we'll review you for CTS in addition to RJI. So just that distinction there that I forgot to mention. Here, like I said, is all those resources that mirror the baccalaureate. I won't go into all of them. I will point out the personal information guide. So CTS and BAS are set up differently in terms of what is asked in the application. For BAS, we really strongly urge essay type responses for that essay component. Whereas for CTS, that essay isn't really an essay. It's more about asking you questions about a challenge that you've had. And we've seen responses go from 2 sentences to a small mini paragraph. So these don't require you to put on a whole essay for you to receive funding. What we really want to hear is, for example, if they ask you, how did you overcome, name a challenge that you faced. We really want to hear how you've overcome that challenge, right? And how you were able to succeed even in the face of it. So for CTS, it's not essays, it's more about getting information from you. Do you have the nature to be able to complete that credential that you're pursuing? Are there any catches? Do you have to have a certain GPA or take certain classes? No. So CTS did not have a GPA requirement. A lot of our CTS applicants also tend to be folks that are already in the workforce for years, or that going back to get another credential because their career right now, they don't like it, they want to change. And so we don't have a GPA requirement for CTS, and we don't also have that essay requirement that throws a lot of people off. So hopefully that answers that question. Again, the open for you all when you're eligible is fall, April 14th, and you'll want to submit that by June 4th, as well as your FAFSA or WASFA, whichever pertains to your situation. Again, screenshot. If you're looking at RJI eligible programs, look at this far. all of the ones in that middle, that says award. AAS is an associate degree, a C is a certificate degree, or certificate, not degree. And then this is my final slide before I go on to share a little bit about the website, just so that we know where all of these resources are in case you don't have this PowerPoint handy. So you want to visit and learn more, you can click that link. Also, if like you start your application, especially for BAS, because that one's open, and you have questions or you're looking at applying for CTS in April, I would really encourage you to go to one of these Train the Trainer webinars, whether that's in English, January 7th, or the Spanish version, the Resumen de Becas, in January 11th, because our awards team will be leading those sessions. So the awards team will know, especially if you have those special circumstances or special situations that you want answers then, they'll be the best people to support you. And like I said, they lead all the selection process. And so if you want specific answers, I really encourage you to register. And if you have the link to the PowerPoint, which I'll pop it in the chat one last time, you can register, but it's also on our website, and I'll show you where to access that. And then some final contact information for anything related to your application, like, do I need to submit this? What does this mean? All of those application support related questions, you're going to want to email awards@opportunityscholarship.org. For anything general, like such as like, when was WSOS created, or something super generic like that, you can email info@opportunityscholarship.org, or if you don't know where your question goes, email @info, and then we'll funnel your question wherever it needs to go. So I'll stop my, whoops, did not mean to stop sharing my screen. I meant to stop sharing the PowerPoint. So that's all the PowerPoint content that I have for you. I did want to just briefly pop onto the website to show you where you can find all of the information I shared with you on the PowerPoint on the website, because the website is always going to be right. My information very quickly becomes outdated when there's a change in the selection process or in the selection criteria. So if you're looking at this and you're looking at my PowerPoint and you're looking at the website 2 weeks later and it says something different, go with what the website says. The link that you have will expire the minute I make a change. And that may very well be this afternoon. So always go to the website. So this is our homepage. If you're looking at registering for one of those Train the Trainer sessions, whether that's in English or in Spanish, you can go ahead and click these buttons here. If you're wanting more information about the applicant process, the criteria that I shared, you can go to students, applicants, and then click that scholarship program that you're looking at applying for. And then if you're looking at, let's say, baccalaureate, and you want that application toolkit with all those resources that I shared, you'll go to baccalaureate and then application toolkit right to the right. And it will be the same for career and technical scholarship. The application toolkit is right there. It's taking a minute to load. And then if you wanted more information about Rural Jobs Initiative, you'll just click the Rural Jobs and it'll take you to that part of the page. But these are all the resources that we have for you. I'll go ahead and open it up for some brief questions. Like I said, if there's anything very specific, I would definitely point you to the awards@WA email. But for very high level questions, I'm happy to answer them. I have a question. What if we apply but don't know for sure if we're going to a Washington college? In the application, it will ask you to put a college. And so it will ask you for a Washington college because that's all you're going to see in that drop-down menu. So if you indeed don't end up going to that, but you're selected, you would then forfeit the funding if you chose not to go to that college. But you can choose, you can change colleges in Washington. You just can't change out of Washington. Then you would lose the funding. Any other questions? Elizabeth, do you have any final questions before I go?
I don't. You guys, if you have any more questions, please don't be shy. You can type it, you can ask it. But this was super helpful. I really appreciate it. I definitely will email the awards team just to check out. So if you guys see something and you're like, hey, why isn't this on here? Let me know. I'll be happy to. I'll email people all day long. I love emailing people. Anything else from you guys? All right, Vanessa, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to visit with us.
Yeah, of course. I'm just popping it in the chat in case there are questions about the application that come up later. Popped it in the chat. Students, feel free to email. Like, you have to be your best advocate. That's the last piece of advice I can give for you all. So make sure you apply if you fall into those categories. Love to see those names in that application. Like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to email awards. Elizabeth, thanks for having me. Any other questions? Email awards. But I'll see you in January if you go to one of the sessions. I'll be there.
Great.
But
thank you so much.
have a great rest of your day, y'all.
Bye. All right, thank you guys so much for coming. I super appreciate you. Just a reminder, we do have our winter summit, which is coming up this next Monday, the 21st. You are all cordially invited. Please sign up on the sign up sheet we got floating around so that I can get you your supplies. And Friday this week, we have yoga. It's our last yoga of the year. So please, Michael, come on, come on. I've seen your yoga moves before. You're on. So let's get some flexibility going. Do you guys have any questions for me? Remember, I'm available to schedule one-on-one meetings with anybody, and I'm super excited to help you with college essays, FAFSA, brainstorming ideas, scholarships, whatever you need to work on. So please reach out to me or Riva. We are here to support you. All right, thank you guys so much for coming. I appreciate you. Bye.